bored estate agency bosses. Today I'm joined by Steve Wayne, who runs Benjamin Stevens Estate Agency chain, North London, Watford and other parts of the Southeast. And Steve Wayne's been in the business over 20 years. And we were talking before we switched the cameras on about the problem that an awful lot of successful estate agents get is that they tend to self-sabotage because they want to be involved and they've kind of let go, worked in the business. How did you let go? How did you then get through that and come back into business and fall in love with the estate agency again?
So I think like a lot of people who have their own businesses, you almost get to a point and you think, right, I want to do something next. I want to do something next. You know, I sit downstairs sometimes and you answer the phone, you're just like, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, I don't want to do valuations and I don't want to get dressed up in a suit anymore. And I think you then start looking for the next thing to do. And I think it's very easy to take that step away. But for a lot of, you know, companies my size, you know, as a estate agent, there's like 15 of us. I'm the heart and soul and the energy and the vibe of the business. I think there's a lot of people. And I think it's very easy to think, well, they can run without me. And if they can, you know, my staff would be fine today while I'm here. But the energy, that enthusiasm, by taking me out of the business, the business loses so much.
Did you do that? You went out the business,
Yeah,
the classic on.
I've probably done it a few times where I've gone out and think, you know, and what you want to do is, you know, you don't want to bring a manager or a director or an MD and be on top of them. But unfortunately, the respect and, you know, they've got to go and grab it very quickly. And I'm very much a doer. I can change things very quickly and I can do things. You know, you've known me long enough. My energy is my biggest asset. And you go and bring someone else in to do that and it just drops. And you feel that coming in and paying an MD X amount of money or bringing a branch manager, and you expect, because you should, that people will just do their jobs. But people are great in interviews and not so great at what they do. And, you know, I've done it a few times. I've been, you know, next week we'll be in business 20 years. And I've done it a few times where I've taken a step out and tried to, and, you know.
Is that because you got bored?
Yeah, I think boredom's a big thing. You want to do the next thing, you know. I think I've got, you know, I grew up with parents who had their own business. And so, you know, 5 years old, I was working in their shop, you know, and I'm used to that, you know, entrepreneurial spirit. But I think I've learned massively, probably the last year, I probably learned more about business than I have done the last 20. That's because a few things happened to myself and to other people. But I've actually realized I can earn a lot of money doing what I'm really good at. And sometimes trying to do other things because you're bored is where things go wrong. And I think, you know, if I look back on my 20 years, I've made mistakes by trying to run before I'm walking.
This self-sabotage, you said that you probably self-sabotaged as well without actually knowing it.
I'm not sure. I don't know if I'd use the word self-sabotage, but what I've tried to do is try to run before I can walk, and I haven't got everything into place. And I think boredom is a thing, you know, when you've got that entrepreneurial spirit, you're like, you think you've got that in place. And the hard bit is almost then you need to leave it a year and make sure it can run with you upstairs, or, you know, you've got to gently take steps back. And I think I've had opportunities to grow and do certain parts of the business and build things. And I've just tried to do things too quickly. And I would use the word boredom more than self-sabotage. I haven't tried to ruin my business. I've tried to, because I've been bored, because, you know, I'm so used to being in control of everything. When you sort of take that step back.
Do you fear losing that control?
I don't fear losing control. You know, I'm at a point now, my bushy office is run by someone. We speak in the morning, in the evening, and I leave it to him. We have a meeting together face to face once a week. He's in complete control. Louisa, who runs my lettings and management, has been with me 13, 14 years. She controls that. So I don't fear losing control, but I fear losing.
Normally, a lot of people fear losing control. So
no, I don't fear losing control. I fear losing control when people who promise me the world and can do this and can do that don't deliver. And, you know, I think I'm guilty as anyone. Someone comes in on an interview and they're this, they're that. But sometimes you've got to take a step back. And when you've got a 45-year-old guy who's looking for a new challenge, you've almost got to look back at why aren't you further on in your life? And I think that's something which I've started to do over the last few months, is looking at people and thinking, well, you are where you are because of what you've done. You know, yes, you get the odd person who has bad luck and problems, but there's also a lot of people in the industry who just float. And I think we found over the years a few floaters who I thought I could trust and probably haven't. But I don't fear losing control. I fear losing control to the wrong people.
How do you get the right people?
Practice, gut, mistakes. And I don't think the question is how do you find the right people, is how do you get rid of the wrong people? And I think that's probably the better question. I've learned I hate sacking people. I hate those horrible conversations. And I think, for me, you've got to give people an opportunity. And a lot of people, we've had situations where people have done us over and someone turns around and goes, don't let it change you. And I've actually done quite well at not letting it change. I always try and see the good in people. I always try and see the potential, the spark, why someone hasn't got to their, can I help you move on in life? We're lucky. We've got a lot of people in the business who we've helped, progress career-wise, but progress in life. For me, that's very important. So, you've just got to keep on meeting people. We're constantly open to hiring, and you're just looking for that person. And I think if you've got to give people the opportunity, but I've learned better now that if they're not right, let's get rid of them and let's move on and try and do it in the easiest, nicest fashion, which isn't easy because everyone, blames you as a boss. It's your fault. You didn't do this. You didn't give me enough time. You didn't do this. But ultimately, you've got to do what's best for the business.
Hire slowly and fire quick.
Yeah. And the problem is you don't want to lose out on someone. And, what recruitment companies are like. Oh, they're having 4 interviews here. They really want to come to you, but they're having this and they want that. So sometimes you almost hire too quickly because you're worried about, and unfortunately, there's probably a fault on recruitment companies. They're so pressured because they want to do the deal. They're not thinking about the longer term. They're too very much short-term focused. But, every year you learn. I think, we've got some really good senior people in the business who I trust implicitly. But you think you trust someone and then they let you down, and
that's life though, isn't it?
It is life. It's still hard to take.
How do you deal with it?
Time deals with it. We've just had someone who's left who's been with me for a few years, and I thought they were there for life, and so, as did most people in my company. And I got a text to say they were leaving, just as I was flying away on a holiday, which was always a nice way to finish work for the year. But it happens, and you just sort of get past it, and you just realise that it makes you realise that you've got to put yourself first, and you've got to put the business first. And for too many years, if someone asked me, like, after this many years in business, one bit of advice: worry about yourself. It's so easy to be loyal to your staff and worry about them, but it's all irrelevant if there isn't a business there to feed everyone at the end of the day.
Thank you for your time today, Steve.
Pleasure as always.